I'm really delighted to be interviewing a woman I greatly admire, Loraine Mponela from Coventry. When I first met her, I saw her as a formidable activist, seemingly inexhaustible in the campaign she was involved with. Organising, speaking, interviewing, she seemed to be everywhere. And only later I found out she was also a poet. I would like to invite her to start with reading a poem.
Thank you so much, Jane, for having me. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you. So this poem is called God, I Love My Son. I wrote this poem in June 2020. It's kind of like the first thing that made me to start writing poetry. So yeah, I'll read it first and then maybe we can have a discussion around it. God, I love my son. Vachiuta, mwana wani kumtemwa. Vachiuta, I love my son. I had my son when I was still a teenager. Back then, kukaya, Malawi. I remember the day I first entered Chatinga labor ward that year. I remember that month. And that day, I remember that night. It was 3:50 a.m. that my son showed up. He was cute, and he still is now. But I love my son. I remember the first time he suckled my breast. I smiled. And that forever stays with me. Children are a blessing, so they say. And I agree, I'm blessed. With my son, we grew together and we're closely knitted together. But I love my son. God, I love my son. My son always knew what I was thinking of just looking in my eye. All those are just memories now. I feel incomplete. He sends me photos we took together. But that is not enough for me. I feel empty. That connection no longer exists. My son, Malawi, where I live here in the UK. Rachiuta, I love my son. God, I love my son. The tagline and the status that I often use. It is my way of testifying to God that no matter the feelings my son may have, no matter anyone else may judge me for what has happened in my life, I will forever love my son. Like a rock, I will stand with my son. Nothing has or will change that part of me for him. God, I love my son. Rachiuta, I love my son. It is an affirmation. It is a promise. It is a declaration. I miss my son, and I know he misses me too. We miss each other. But I love my son. Sometimes we cry together on the phone, we console each other, believing that one day our story will change. God, I love my son. Vachiuta, I love my son is a protest to show that whatever barriers that have been mounted between us, my heart is always with him. God, I love my son is a status that comes from the deepest part of my heart. I know I have failed him, but it still stands. God, I love my son. Vachiuta, mwana wanu kumtemwa. Thank you.
Oh, Loraine, that is just such a wonderful poem. It's so beautiful, and I love the fact that you have your first language in there as well. It's your mother tongue.
Yeah, it is my mother tongue. It's called Chitumbuka.
The very fact that you've got this kind of two identities caught in the language, and you speak in your first language, and people understand through your voice, through the emotion, but they don't understand what it is like to feel it. So that's my response to it. But, and also,
Yeah.
of course, I'm a mother. But would you like to say a bit about how important it is for you, that poem? Because you said that it was the thing that started you writing.
Yeah. So I always write on my WhatsApp status, God, I love my son. So one of the artists here, Loraine Masiya here in Coventry, she said, what does it mean? I see always you write on your status, God, I love my son. Can you write it down? So I wrote this and gave it to her. And she asked me, can we record this? Like to make a video out of it? I said, of course we can. So she did that. We recorded a video. And then we had a day of launching it. It was I remember it was Refugee Week 2020. So when we launched online, a lot of people watched, and a lot of women especially. Of course, also men made comments in the chat to say, we all miss our families and stuff like that back home. And someone was like, I came here as a child through Ireland. He was also talking about his story. But women were literally crying loudly, like, you're talking about my daughter, you're speaking about my son. So to me, that was the moment where I was thinking that I could be speaking for other people because of the reaction that that people showed that day. Other people were also saying, that poem that you did with the artist. So I was like, oh, was it even a poem? I better start learning about how to write poems. So yeah, to me, but that was like the tipping point. Something just freaked in me, thinking I could do more because a lot of people resonated with my poem. And yeah, I left my son in 2008 because that's when I left Malawi. He was 14 years old by then. At the time when I was leaving him, I didn't realize that it would take us very long time. We are not yet together. I've just been given my refugee status now. So I'm thinking of probably traveling and meet somewhere. But yeah, it's your children, being separated from your children, I think is the hardest thing that we have to bear in our lives. But yeah. After I did that, I found that even other meetings, people were asking if I could read or if I could open their meeting with the same poem. So to me, that just gave me more encouragement. And during the pandemic, because it also, much as it was the hardest time around the world, but it also opened some opportunities. So I was able to join online workshops and stuff like that about how to write poems and creative writing sessions and stuff like that. So over these past 2 years, I've just been attending something and then I'm like, yeah, this looks like it's gonna end in a poem. So they'll give us prompts and then I link it to my own story, and then I write something. So I just continue to write. So I go sometimes to a protest. Sometimes I have a speech prepared. Sometimes I don't have the speech prepared. But I will have at least a poem somewhere where I'm thinking, if I'm asked to talk, and because maybe I haven't prepared any speech, I can always pull out a poem. So the other day I read a poem called "We Are Dying" at the protest. So after that, someone sent a message through our CARAG Instagram to say, please, I went to this protest. Loraine read a poem. Can I, if possible, can I have the words for that poem, because it really touched me. So to me, it was kind of like things adding up. The feedback that I was getting, I just thought there should be something in it. And when I performed that poem, because I was with someone here who does drumming, Gloria. You know Gloria. Yes. So I was with Gloria. Gloria was doing drumming. So we did it like a combined. We were doing together. I was reading, and at some point she would come in with the drumming and all of that. So yeah, it was moving, actually. So the feedback that I get, it just kept encouraging me. And then to hear someone else to look out the way how she could find me, and so that she could have that poem, I was just thinking, yeah, definitely it's getting to a different audience, because not everyone probably likes one form of thing. Maybe to some people it's the poem that speaks to them.
Okay, so you're talking about, Loraine, the impact that your writing is having on people listening, and how it's drawing people in who might not otherwise be able to engage with the political. Would you now see yourself as a poet activist, or as an activist poet, or are the two inextricably linked?
Oh, goodness. So because my activity, I have so many approaches. Poetry is one of them. So yeah, because I also do comedy, for example, but it's still as a way of activism. I write articles, I speak, and poetry, and all sorts of different things. So yeah, I regard poetry now as one of my tools that I'm using. And the publication of the book, for me, it's also kind of like reaching out even to the audience that I would not have reached physically, because like when I'm reading poems like within my circles, or where we're meeting at a protest, a book would go even further to different countries. Like at the moment, I'm not sure if there's a continent that my book has not been bought. A number of books in Africa and Germany, US a couple, but yeah. And then someone was from Jamaica. It was like, can you send me the link to the ebook, because it's also in form of like an ebook. Yeah, I said, because it's so expensive if I use postage, but I need the ebook. So the moment I did the ebook, he was the first person to get it. So yeah, it's kind of like reaching even the audiences that I would not have thought about.
I think it's very interesting, because your material is not just about yourself, and it's not just about activism. It's a kind of mixture of going inside yourself and reaching out. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, because we are all human beings. We all, like when I read God, I Love My Son, you said, oh, I also have children. So for me, I'm like, I've done my job, because at least you're seeing yourself in my work. You're seeing yourself in my emotions. You're seeing yourself in my story. To me, that's the most important thing. So I guess every platform has its own kind of like audience. For example, people who have problems with internet, YouTube videos may not be convenient for them because my videos sometimes it can take up to 5 minutes, while people maybe what they want is to just watch something for 30 seconds, for example, or something like that, because it will take a lot of their data depending on where you are. Yeah, so I've been using YouTube because sometimes when I go to a protest, for example, someone records me and then they send me on WhatsApp to say your speech today or this poem today when you were reading this poem. I'm like, oh, this is nice, and then I just upload it. Yeah, and yeah, that's how I started. I shared this on 16th of April this year, 2022. It was around deportations to Rwanda when the government was pressing on with the deportations, with this new plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. So it was in response to that. We had a protest, and then that's where I first read this. So do not piss on me and tell me it's raining. Let me tell you a story. A European, an African, and an Arab are on a boat. The European gets to stay. The African and the Arab flown out to Rwanda. But it's not a racist. An Arab and an African escapes bombs and bullets supplied by the West, their homes destroyed in order to westernize them. And some of us are called savages, others are called ragheads, but it's not racist. Immigration rules in this country are exempt from all equality laws, but it's not racist. Do not piss on me and tell me it's raining. We are here because the rulers of this country were there. We are here because you are there. We are not going to Rwanda. We are not going anywhere else. And we know why Rwanda has accepted. It's because of the 120 million pounds that will go into government officials' pockets, and that the UK can wash its hands to the fate of those it will send to Rwanda. This policy is not only wrong, but it smells to high heaven. We condemn this policy with our loudest voices we can utter. The fate of human beings cannot be transacted the same way like the people traffickers that this government condemn. We ask, is this legal? Is this moral? Let me say this again. We are not going to Rwanda or anywhere else. We are not going to give up. We are not. And we have to ask everyone, which side are you on? Which side are you on? For me, I'm on the side of those the system doesn't authorize. I'm on the side of those who are demonized. The last time I checked, it wasn't me or other refugees who raised the price of electricity, at the same time raising millions in profit. As others have already said before, if a law is unjust, it is our duty to break it. Justice now, solidarity for all refugees. Thank you for listening. I think where most of us are also struggling with is people have come all the way from wherever they are coming from, and they have arrived in the UK, where you feel like, now I'm safe, I've arrived. But then at the same time, you'll be deported again. A lot of us, we are struggling to understand what that even means.
Mm.
Mm.
Can you tell me a bit about what it's like to produce a book, and how do you feel about it?
So because, like I said, I've been writing during the pandemic, putting things aside, writing and putting them aside. And I have books and books, as well as at some point I find time to type things. When I saw that I've written a lot, I searched on Amazon to say, I wanted to find out what other asylum seekers and refugees in the UK are writing about and are publishing about. So when I searched there, I came across a book by Jedi Amori. I don't know if you know Jade, but she's one of the trustees at Women for Refugee Women.
All right.
Jedi Amori was also an asylum seeker in this country for a long time, but now she has her status. She's a refugee from Uganda. So she wrote her book, Moving a Country. So I bought her book, and it was also poetry. And in it, at the end, in the acknowledgement, she said, thanks to Tom Green from Counterpoint Arts for supporting me to publish this book.
Mm.
So contacted Tom. I said, Tom, I've seen you supported Jade to publish her book. I've written a lot of poems. Can I share with you and see if they can also be published? And if you can support me? Tom looked at them and he said, oh my God. He came up with a quote that is on the front cover of the book. But there was also a lady who I worked with this beginning of this year. We're doing a different project where every one of us contributed a poem, and then we made a piece together. We were like 5 or 6 women. We connected and made a big piece and performed. So I still remembered her. I said, okay, I might as well get that lady to look at these poems now that it's getting serious that the poems will be published. So she agreed to look at the poems. And it was also around August. So that's the same month as well when I received my status. So it was kind of like a lot of things happening at once. Like I said, I started writing in 2020. It doesn't mean that, although the poems here, most of them were written in 2021 and 2022, excuse me, it doesn't mean that the preparation just started there, because there's always something that leads to another. So probably even this thing that first thing that I did with Roller God, I Love My Son, probably it was also because of something else that happened before that gave me the courage to write about God, I Love My Son. So I believe that it's a journey that might have started even earlier, but yeah, in terms of preparing myself, because I remember in 2018, 2019, I was attending a certificate in journalism course at London College of Communication. So because it was funded, but I was going to London once every week to attend sessions. And after that, my first article was published in the Guardian. So kind of like, I'm thinking there could be things that was just like one thing leading to another. I also remember even in April 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, I wrote an article which was well read. It was published by the Bear UK. So I'm thinking that probably, yeah, some of the preparations you don't know, but it's kind of like things adding up and then having that confidence at some point. To say, actually, I can do more. I can, and then it ends up into a book. So it may not be like an overnight thing, but it's a kind of like a series of things that have happened in the past leading to one thing, and then you get more confident, and then you step out again, you go and learn how to write, and then you bring that back. But my beginning I didn't even know that I would have a book by this time.
I think really having the book out is obviously not only good for you, but also recognition from other people. And you've told me that it's selling incredibly well. And you said, was it 42 on your launch night alone?
Yes, I'm still digesting it. I'm still processing it, because I was thinking when the book was published, a lot of people here in Coventry bought the book. So even when we had a launch, that day on the 26th of November, there was also train strike. So I was thinking, okay, it means the audience will just be from Coventry and a lot of them who have already bought the book anyway. So probably it would just be us reading poems and sharing and laughing and, you know. But no, in the end, yes, we sold 42 copies on the spot. And to me, that was the biggest sale I've had at a single event. Yes, I've sold a lot of copies. Like we were at Women for Refugee Women Anniversary. I think I sold 22 copies. To me, it was also the attendance. Everyone was saying it was a good event, and indeed, it was a good event because one, there was a large turnout. Secondly, everything went just nicely. We had nice food, nice dramas, people who came to support, nice speakers. One of our local councillors was there to open the event. To me, it's an honor to even have a councillor turning up and resonating with what I write and making a moving speech. I also had friends from Stourbridge, from Birmingham, different places coming. Yeah, some people were even texting to say we are stuck. They were coming from London in a car, but there's too much traffic. By the time they were coming in, West Midlands was a bit late. But yeah, people tried all they could, and yeah, I'm just grateful, really.
I would love you to finish this interview by reading from the title poem of that book. I was not born a sad poet.
Yeah. I was not born a sad poet. I was not born sad. Nobody is. That would be mad. I'm a sad poet because of the circumstances that life deals which put me on the edge. I live on the edge of the society, of the law, not because I want it. I'm a label with a cause filled with another purpose, and sometimes I am sad. Sad for decisions not being made in time, sad for years of waiting, sad for years of not knowing what, sad for living on charity when I have hands and the brains to fend for myself, sad for many others like me who take their own lives because of the gloom in their eyes. I could be a happy poet, happy to be alive, happy for health and sunshine, but someone has switched off the lights. I can't see the sun nor hear the flying birds as I listen to my thumping heart that exists in fear and sadness of a poor mental health state of 7 years of inactivity and degeneration. I look sad because my sadness is no longer inside. It has become my logo, the cauldron where poems and thoughts are chained to calm my trembling spirit, which has been denied of sleep and restfulness in both the day and night. I am sad. I have to fight for a morsel of food. I am sad. I have to fight for an audience with important people who control my life and make decisions as to who I am and who I can be. I'm a sad poet, but I could be a happy poet. I'm sad now, but not always. I'm more than that. I'm human with million emotions, for now pulsating under the banner of sadness because of the decaying mental health of me and my friends. Helping them become better and not sad will help me to become better and not sad. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Loraine. That was really moving, beautiful. Thank you.